Welcome back to the archives, traveler. The ocean does not forgive, and those who dwell beneath it do not forget. The docks of Iron Cove were alive with preparation. The ship the commander had secured was a war vessel built to carry soldiers through hostile waters. Its hull was reinforced, its sails were strong, and its crew was seasoned. The quartet stood on the deck as the final supplies were loaded. Valory stepped to the rail. She raised her hand and whistled, a sharp, clear note that carried across the water, the same technique the elder had taught her weeks ago. The answer came. Two massive shapes descended from the clouds. Wings beat with thunderous force. The Rocs landed on the deck with precision, their talons gripping the reinforced planks. The crew stepped back, eyes wide. The great birds folded their wings and settled near the mast. They would rest there until the quartet needed them. The commander stood at the rail. He clasped the brothers' hands, then Tharok's, then Valory's. He did not speak. There was nothing left to say. The sails unfurled, and the ship left Iron Cove behind. The first days were easy. The ocean was calm, the wind was steady, the sky was clear. The crew worked in shifts. The quartet stayed out of the way. Kaelister stood at the bow, watching the horizon. Lar sat cross-legged on the deck, meditating, arcane energy flickering around his fingers. Tharok inspected his glaive. Valory stood near the Rocs, running her hand along their feathers. On the third day, the horizon changed. A shape rose in the distance, dark, jagged, unnatural. A spire, the Spire of Rue. It stood on a barren island of black stone surrounded by wreckage, the remains of ships, hundreds of them. Masts jutted from the waves like grave markers. Hulls lay half-submerged, rotting. The commander's first mate checked the maps, searched for a way around. There was none. The only path north passed directly through the spire's domain. The crew grew quieter, and then, beneath the surface, something moved. They surfaced slowly. First one, then two, then five, then more. Leviathans. Massive serpentine bodies, scales black as the abyss, eyes glowing pale and cold. They circled the ship at a distance, silent, waiting. The crew froze. The first mate approached the brothers. "We can't go forward. If we enter that water, they'll sink us." Kaelister looked at the spire, at the Leviathans, at the ship. Then he looked at Lar. Lar nodded. The decision was made. The crew would hold position here, outside the domain. The quartet would fly. Valory approached the Rocs. They rose, stretching their wings. Kaelister and Lar mounted one. Valory and Tharok mounted the other. The Rocs' wings beat once, twice, and they took flight. Below, the Leviathans watched. Their massive heads broke the surface, tracking the movement above. But they did not leap. They hunted ships, not the sky. The quartet flew toward the Spire of Rue, and the ocean churned beneath them. The Rocs landed on the island's shore. The ground was black rock, slick with seawater. The wreckage of ships surrounded them, broken masts, shattered hulls, rusted anchors buried in stone. Ahead rose the spire. Water streamed down its sides in constant rivulets, as if the stone itself wept.
The air smelled of salt and decay. The quartet dismounted, drew their weapons, and the dead rose. From the wrecks, from the water, from the stone, skeletal figures dragged themselves onto the shore, drowned pirates, bones encrusted with barnacles, wielding rusted cutlasses, drowned sailors, hollow-eyed, clutching harpoons and anchors. They did not speak, did not scream, only the creak of bone, the drip of water, the scrape of metal on stone. They attacked. Valory drew her bow. The string shimmered. An arrow of pure light materialized. She loosed. It struck a drowned pirate in the chest. Golden radiance exploded outward. The skeleton collapsed into ash. She drew again and again, each arrow a flash of light, each impact a purification. Tharok's glaive swept wide. The blade ignited, cold blue fire roaring along its edge. He cleaved through 3 skeletons in one stroke. Their bones shattered. The fire consumed what remained. Lar raised his hand. His eyes glowed violet. He pointed at the waterlogged ground. Thunder cracked. A bolt of lightning struck the shallow water pooling around the drowned. The charge spread instantly. A dozen skeletons convulsed, their bones splitting, collapsing into fragments. Lar extended both hands. Arcane symbols flared around his wrists. The air above the horde ignited. Firestorm. Flames rained down in a concentrated circle. The drowned caught in the blaze, crumbled to ash. The heat evaporated the water clinging to their bones. Kaelister charged forward, sword in hand. His gauntlet pulsed once. A chain of radiant energy lashed out, wrapping a drowned sailor and slamming it into the rocks. He drove his blade through its skull. Lar's gauntlet flared. He punched the ground. A shockwave of arcane force rippled outward, scattering skeletons like leaves. But the drowned did not stop. For every one that fell, 2 more rose from the water. The quartet pressed forward, step by step, cutting through the tide. Valory's bow blazed. Tharok's glaive burned. Lar's spells tore through ranks. Kaelister's sword flashed. Until finally they stood before the spire's entrance. Massive doors of blackened iron, sealed but not locked. Behind them, the drowned had stopped. They stood at the water's edge, watching. The quartet caught their breath. Kaelister stepped forward, placed his hand on the door. It opened, and from within, the air carried the scent of salt and sorrow. The archives note this moment not for the battle, but for what awaited beyond. The quartet had crossed an ocean, bypassed Leviathans, cut through an army of the drowned. But the Spire of Rue was not empty. Inside, something stirred, something that fed on the regrets of sailors, the final thoughts of the drowning, the weight of choices that could never be undone. And regret was waiting. The archives are now closed.